Hi everybody and welcome back. People have been asking me lately, how did I take a business from zero to £1 million in 12 months without any investment? So today I'm going to share with you everything about that business, how I got into it, how I turned over £1 million in 12 months with absolutely no upfront costs, and why I stopped doing it, and how you can do this even today. It's a fantastic business. And if it's your first time here, welcome. My name is Sholly. I post videos weekly of businesses you can start with little or no money. So make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a video of a business that might be suitable for you, where you can just make tons of money, baby. So let's start from the beginning. Now, I just want to tell you this video is completely unscripted. I'm not reading from a teleprompter. I'm looking straight into the camera. And I'm going to tell you exactly as it was, as the business was, and what it was, and how you can do this today. So I think it was mid-2017 when I was going to get involved. I almost bought into a state agency franchise. It was a great business, great business module, very good money potentially, but it just wasn't for me. But at the time, this franchise estate agent were also moving into managing short-term lets. So they approached all the agents, including me, even though I wasn't officially signed up. And they offered us a deal. They said, if you bring us a property that we can manage for short-term lets, we charge 20%, the head office, and we will split the commission with you and pay you half, 10%. And all you have to do is bring us the deal. Now, to me, that sounded like a very good deal, maybe even too good to be true. But it turns out it was true, as I'll get to a little bit later in the video. At the time, I was working in a boxing gym. I was a personal trainer, a fitness instructor. I was training fighters to fight, and I was also just training regular people fitness. And I heard at the time this concept of rent to rent. So I looked into it and I wanted to get involved in it. So I remember I went up to this city somewhere up north. I can't remember what the place is called now. And I was going to rent this big house and use it as an HMO, so to rent out all the rooms individually. And thankfully that didn't work out, although it almost did. And then I heard of another concept of, it was relatively new at the time, rent to SA, which is serviced apartments or serviced accommodation. So you rent the property and then you sublet it for short-term lets. So I went on Facebook and I signed up to this service accommodation Facebook group, and I naively, very naively, put a post in. I wrote this post saying that I'm looking for a property to rent that I can use for service accommodation. I was extremely open, extremely naive about it, especially how landlords are very fussy about their properties being let for service accommodation. And a few hours later, I get this message from a guy called Peter, his name was. He sends me a message. He says, I got this cottage in Lincoln where I manage it on Airbnb and Booking.com with my wife, he said, and we are retiring. Well, we've actually retired. This is the only thing that we work at, but we want to go travel a little bit. And we're looking for somebody not to take over the Airbnb or management side of things, but just to the rent side of things. And if they want to use it for Airbnb, they can use it for Airbnb, no problem. So I arranged to meet him in Lincoln. Now, Lincoln is a very old town in the UK. It's further up north, but a little bit, I think it's to the west or to the, I can't remember. And it's a fascinating place. If you haven't been there, I really suggest you go there. And I went to see this cottage. He wanted £750 a month. And it was already fully furnished because he's been using it for Airbnb. So it had a fully stocked kitchen, it had TVs, it had internet, it had everything. All I had to do was make a new listing under my name. It all made sense to me. So I said to the guy, listen, I would love to do it, but I'll be very honest with you, and this was true at the time, I didn't have a penny to my name. I was working very hard in the fitness business, but I was barely making ends meet, and I just didn't have money. £750 a month, £750 deposit. Okay, I think that was it. I just didn't have it. So he says to me, he saw, I don't know what it was. He liked me. He saw I was a genuine person. And he says to me, don't worry, Sholly. Take it from the first And at the end of the month, you'll pay me £750. And every month, on the first, or as soon as you can, you'll pay me the £750 a month. We didn't even sign a contract. I mean, I think the guy's a lunatic that he did that. But it was great for me. So I'll post some pictures of my first property that I did. So anyway, I did it and I put it on. He even sent me the pictures, the professional pictures he took of the place. So I put it on Airbnb, I put it on Booking.com, I put it on HomeAway. And I was surprised that people were actually making bookings, making reservations. And I think in the first month, it was near the summer, and I did about £3,000 in turnover. I was shocked. Could it really be this simple? Anyway, obviously I paid them the £750 rent for that month, and I paid them another £750 up front, and every month moving forward, I paid them up front, the monthly fee. That was my first property. That was my introduction to Airbnb, to short-term lets. I learnt on that property. It's 2.5 hours away from London, so it was a bit of a faff for me because every time there was a problem, I had to drive up there and I had to deal with it. But it was a big, that's really what got me into the business. And I'm very grateful for this guy, Peter, for trusting me and giving me this opportunity. Anyway, from there, I looked into this business a little bit further, and I found that in Liverpool, property is very cheap to rent, and it's one of the highest visited cities in the UK. And nightly rates were very high, almost the same as, I wouldn't say the same as London, because London's a lot more expensive, but Greater London, so outside central London, it was almost the same nightly rates. So I went up to Liverpool and I went to a networking event. I remember it was in a pub, 7 o'clock in the evening. I remember where the pub was. And I met this guy called, I forget his name. And I told him what I was looking for. I'm looking for a property to rent that I can use for Airbnb. I told him, just like the first time when I was honest and upfront, I got what I wanted. I thought that I'll use a strategy and do it again. And turned out the guy says, I know this estate agent who, I'm very good with them, and if I put a word in, they might have something for you. The next day he calls me up and he says, I got this flat, £750 a month, the same rent as in Lincoln, 2-bedroom flat. It wasn't furnished, it was unfurnished, or was part of it. I think I had a bed and I had a couple of cupboards, but I got rid of the cupboards. I had a bed and I had a dining table and chairs, which were quite nice. The flat was a beautiful flat, actually. I was very lucky. Anyway, they said, yeah, they don't mind, as long as I guarantee the rent, they don't mind what I do with it. So I spent another, I think it was £1,500 on furnishing, a fully stocked kitchen, microwave, TVs, sofa beds, obviously, nicer beds, or there was beds in the spare room I needed, and some nice pictures and artwork. And I'll never forget this. The first month I put it on, I made £3,200 on a property that I just paid 750 quid for. And then it just got, I remember now, it was in the autumn. And then as we were getting closer to Christmas, I think I had my automated fees on Airbnb on. I think in the month of December, we did about £6,000 on that flat. It was happy days. It was really good. Now, I had a client, I was still doing fitness, and I had a client, and he said to me that he has a friend, a colleague, a business colleague, well, also a friend, who's just built a block in Kent of 9 apartments. Now, Kent is where the estate agency I was going to sign up to were based. And they were doing short-term lets, and they're based in Kent. So I thought, fantastic. So I spoke to my guy, his name was Nigel in Kent. And I said to him, listen, I got this guy, he's got 9 apartments. I went down, we met everybody, we met the landlord, I met with Nigel, and we saw the apartments. I think I have pictures of them. I'll try and find them and I'll post them here, because I actually ended up furnishing them, which I made money on the furnishing as well. And everybody was happy. It was in Ramsgate, the block. Ramsgate? Yeah, Ramsgate. I think it was Ramsgate. Yeah, the place was called Ramsgate. It was right by the water. Great potential. Nigel was really excited about it. Anyway, I furnished them. I charged the guy, the owner of the block, I charged them obviously a nice fee for furnishing all apartments. And Nigel managed them. And every month I got a nice fee for doing absolutely fuck all. It was great. Anyway, It was very difficult. After my naivety wore off, I found it very difficult to get more deals, more rent-to-rents, because people were not happy about subletting these properties. So I came up with another strategy, and that is to approach investors and to sell them the properties. And rather than making the 6 to 8% net yield they'll make on a rental, on an AST, they can make 25% if they use it for short-term lets. And because it didn't have to be a BMV, a below market value property, it could just be a regular property, and they were getting so much money, they were happy. So I found it was so easy to find these properties. Just go on Rightmove or Zoopla or whatever country you're from, the property local websites, find a property that you think could be suitable, and approach an investor. I approached the investors and I told them, listen, if you buy this property, it's 100,000. Okay, so let's take the first ones that I did. It was a flat, 125,000 pounds. You take this flat, 125,000 pounds. The rent on that flat, the value was about 700 pounds a month, but it was right near my rent to rent. So I figured that they could also make 3,000 to 4,000 pounds a month gross. And I'll charge them 20%. I'll charge them 20% commission on turnover. I ended up charging 15%, and I will also furnish it for them. So I sold them the property. Now, when I sold them the property, I made money on the sale because I charged a 2% fee, but a minimum fee of £3,000. So I made £3,000 on the sale. I then furnished the property. And at the time, for a 2-bedroom flat, I was charging about £4,000. It cost me £1,800, I think. So I was making over £2,000 on that. And the third source of revenue was the management. And because they were turning over £3,000 to £4,000 a month at 15% commission, I was making roughly £450 plus a month on a property like this. Now, then I discovered that if you use flats and and you're not the freeholder, there could be problems in the lease of using these for Airbnbs. And Liverpool becoming extremely popular with Airbnb, the management company started cracking down on them. So I had to find another way to do things. And the other way was just to sell houses. Easy. Freehold, sell a house, and do it up. Anyway, so what I did was, this is exactly what I did. So I found some houses, and the houses in Liverpool, and we were selling them for about 70 to 90,000. Those were the houses we were going after. 70 to 90,000, 2 3-bedroom houses. So I made money on the sale. Then I added another source of revenue, and that was I was renovating them. Most of these houses were derelict or needed a whole load of work. So I made a few £1,000s on the refurbishment. I had a few builders. I was the contractor. Then I furnished them, and then I managed them. Genius! It didn't cost me a penny. By just my advice, my professional advice, which I learned over time, I was charging a professional fee for that. You buy this property, you'll be happy. You'll make 25% net returns. Everybody was happy. They're buying a property for 80 grand and they're making 3 grand a month, £30,000 a year, 36,000, whatever it is. It was big money. And then I started branching out in Manchester. And then I had people calling me up because my word of mouth got out that I was giving them these such big returns. I had this guy also from London, from North London. He calls me up. He says, Sholly, I heard what you're doing with my colleagues. I got this block in Slough of 60 flats, he says to me. I want you to take 3 or 4 of them and try it out and see what it's like. So we started with 3 flats, I think it was. I furnished them, made money on that, and then I managed them. And because he was the freeholder, we were able to do what we wanted. So he had the storage room down on the ground floor, which is where we kept all the linen and all the toiletry stuff, shampoo, soaps, coffees and teas. And he was getting £1,100 a month on his 2-bedroom flats in there. We were making him £2,500 a month. This was in Slough, right near Heathrow Airport. The guy was so happy. He was so happy that every time a flat became empty, he called me up, Sholly, there's another flat for you. Sholly, another flat. And we slowly started, we didn't take over the whole building because eventually I stopped doing this, which I'll explain to you in a minute why. But we did a number of flats. He had these 2 penthouses that were complete drug dens. The police had to come and evict these people. It was a whole scene. And it turned, when we went inside them, there was holes in the ceiling, there was earth everywhere. These drug dealers were growing marijuana in his penthouses. He said, Charlie, I've seen what you've done. Do me a favor, get your builders in, sort it out. Got my builders in, I renovated them. I made beautiful flats. Beautiful. I'll post pictures here. Because over there we did themes, which is another thing I ended up doing, which I'll discuss in a second. So these penthouses, I made a London theme in one and a water theme in the other. And because, okay, I'll tell you in 1 second. And then we furnished it and we managed it, and it was great. And then this landlord in Slough, he says to me, you know what, Charlie, I have a block in Kilburn on Edgware Road in London, 5 minutes away from town. Okay, it's not 5 minutes, it's probably 15 minutes from town by car and by bus and train. Literally just outside central London. He says he's got this block of 5 flats. I went over there, I said, we got to do them up. So we did them up. And again, we made themed apartments there. Some of them were actually just regular flats. I'll put the pictures here in a second. You'll see the pictures show up, I think, I hope, if I still have them. And over there, he was getting, I remember for the 2-bedroom flats, he was getting, I think, £1,800. Now, we were getting on a quiet month about £3,000 on a quiet month. So those were months like February and March, which were very quiet. But on busier months, we were getting £5,000 to £7,000 a month on each flat. And I was making a 15% commission on all this. So you can see where we're going with this. And then I had a friend who is an estate agent. He manages properties, and together we rented a flat in Notting Hill, where we paid £2,200. We guaranteed the landlord £2,200 a month, and we were doing £4,000 to £8,000 a month. £8,000 in August on a busy month. Quiet month was £4,000. It was busy all the time. Now you might ask about the problems, which I'll discuss in a second, because I just want to go back to the themes. As I was going through, the months and doing more and more apartments and more houses, I discovered that if we do a theme, we can charge more money and it will have more appeal. So the occupancy will be higher, so the money will be higher. We could charge higher fees, so again, the money will be even higher. And I started getting creative. So we did music, like in Liverpool, we were doing music theme apartments, and we were doing, what were the other, my mind's gone blank. Right, we were doing football theme, we had the house. I sold a house right near Man City, the stadium in Manchester. It was a 3-bedroom house. We turned it into a football theme house. Everybody loved it. It was great. And you can do this too, which I'll get to soon. So basically, this is how things went on over the years. And I managed to build up a large portfolio of properties I was managing. I had a few investors that whenever a property came up, I was able to approach them. They bought it, no problem. I don't think, out of all the properties I sold, there was never a time that my investors went to visit their properties. I think that one of the reasons I was successful in this was because, I don't mean to, you know what I'm saying, but I had integrity. I was honest. I had open books. And I never exaggerated what I was gonna achieve or what I was gonna get them. I always approached them with the lower figures. And they learned to trust me. And whenever I told them buy this property, and you know what, there were times when they also asked me, they said, should I buy this property? And sometimes I'd say yes, and sometimes I'd say no. So I had integrity, and I think in general, in business, you need integrity. But dealing with such large amounts of money that I was dealing, I was turning over their properties. I had their blocks in my hands. I had their monies going through. And being I had integrity, I was successful with it. Until one day, this happened.
And therefore, I urge you, at this moment of national emergency, to stay at home, protect our NHS, and save lives.
The world went through a crisis. We had something called COVID. Whether you believe in it or not, at the time, it had an effect on everybody. Boris came and shut down the country. And overnight, my business was dead. All bookings cancelled, future bookings, no new reservations coming in. You weren't allowed to travel. You had to stay at home.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
And my business turned into nothing overnight. Boom, just like that. Bookings, notifications coming up every few minutes on my phone. Another reservation, another reservation, another reservation. Overnight, kaput, finished, dead. That was it. The party was over. So during COVID, obviously, I didn't really do much. I ate a lot. I put on a lot of weight. I took things easy because I did work very hard. And after COVID, I got into other things. Now, this is a business. Just because I don't do it today, and I'll tell you in a second why I don't do it today, but why I stopped doing it, this was the reason. Because COVID came, shut down the country, my business over. Anybody can do this. You don't need any money to start. You can approach landlords. You can say to them that if you were to put your property on Airbnb, let me manage it for you, I will be able to triple your income. And it's not an exaggeration, it's a reality. And if you don't believe me, go to airbnb.com, type in quiet month dates. So take 7 days, let's say in the month of October, to choose a neighborhood, put in a 2-bedroom flat, put in 4 adults or 6 adults, put in 3 beds, because a 2-bedroom flat has 3 beds or 4 beds. It's got a master, a large bed in the master room, 2 single beds. It's got a sofa bed, which also fits 2 people on it. Or even if you just put in 2 people with a 1-bedroom flat, do your homework. And you will see that average nightly rates are phenomenally high. And the average occupancy for short-term lets is approximately 72%. That's just over 21 nights in a month. So if your average nightly rate, you have a look on Airbnb and it's, let's say, £150. So 21 times 150 is 3150. I'm not sure if you can see that. Now that's not a high nightly rate. That's actually a very quiet month rate in Liverpool, Manchester, or any other main city. Obviously, in smaller cities and villages, rates will be lower, but so is the rental value lower. And in answer to the question of why I don't do this anymore, I'll be honest with you, I lost it. And if you haven't got it, if you don't have a passion for something, you can't make it a success. Now, it's not to say I'm not going to do this again. I've been toying with the idea for months. And people have approached me to take their properties and manage them. But I have to be in the right frame of mind. I have to want to do it. I have to have a passion for it. And I do think the passion is coming back because especially the last few weeks, I've been looking very seriously into it and speaking to a few landlords about it. And I think I'm starting to get the passion back. And if I did it again, I would only do London. I'm done with traveling one day up north in Manchester and the next day down in Kent. I'm not doing that anymore. It burnt me out. You know, COVID for me was such a pleasant break. I enjoyed it. I loved it. Not going out, staying at home, staring into the trees, reading books, catching up on all my Netflix shows, studying a bit of the Torah, a little bit too. I did that, believe it or not. And I enjoyed it, but I worked so bloody hard on it. I was working day and night. And if you were gonna get into this, it's bloody hard work. But you know what? Nothing comes easy. And it is so worth it. And if you have any questions or you want to talk to me about it, I'm happy to set up a meeting with you. I'm at a point where I'm charging for my consultation, so we can discuss it. The details, if you want to contact me, are going to be in the description below. But this is a great business, and I would highly recommend you to get into it. I am going to make a separate video on how to start Airbnb or short-term service apartment management business with all the details and everything you need to know about it. But for now, this video was just to discuss how I went from 0 to £1 million in 12 months. Now, if you've got to this part of the video, I can't remember the exact figure of how much I turned over in the first year, but it was pretty much close to £1 million. And as you can see, I literally started this business from 0. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.